Hello, everyone.
Hi, Jeremy. How are you doing?
I'm not doing too bad.
Good. Welcome to YouTube Developers Live. We have an exciting show for you today. Special guest will be Steve Rosenbaum and Kimberly Peterson from Magnify.net.
Hi there.
We are actually streaming live from New York City. How are you guys doing?
Excellent. Good. We like the forest very much.
Is this how New York City typically looks like?
Absolutely.
Occasionally we have parrots and other wild animals.
All right. So we will also talk about curation. So for those of you that have seen our announcement, Steve actually wrote a book about curation called Curation Nation. So we are planning to drill him on curation, which is something quite new to all of us, I think.
Yeah.
But he seems to think it's quite important. So we also have a couple of announcements later on. Later on, we'll cover a couple of the events that are coming in the YouTube developer land.
Yeah.
So shall we get to it? All right.
Let's get started.
So first, Steve, tell us a little bit more about yourself for those of you that are watching and I haven't actually had a chance to search out your bio yet, and then tell us what's curation and what got you into it.
So I've been a filmmaker and a tech company founder kind of intermittently through all of my career. And the thing that people know me best for was that in the early days before the web was actually born, I went in and sold MTV on this idea that their audience would make video. And in hindsight, people jokingly say, well, it was Monday morning and everyone was hungover, which is why they paid attention. But I sold a show to MTV called Unfiltered. And Unfiltered worked in a very kind of sneaker net fashion. You would call an 800 number, for those of you who remember those. We would FedEx you a camera. You'd record your video. You'd FedEx the camera back. We'd edit it, and we'd put it on MTV. And the thing that and this is pre-YouTube, and the thing that was so clear to me during the 4 years we did that show was that people really wanted to make content. They wanted to be able to reach an audience. They just needed a framework, they needed a platform, and they needed some guidance and some organization. So that's really kind of the root of my passion, both for video and for curation. And Kimberly and I, for the last 4 years, 5 years,
5 years,
have been building this technology. To be fair, Kimberly's been building it along with our former CTO, and I've been out hawking it and then trying to make it consumer friendly with the idea that the volume of video that's on the web today, and that is, as you guys know better than anyone, growing just stunningly, needs human help to get discovered and organized. And so that's kind of the overview, and I can dive into some specifics about curation, but I want to just let me kind of set the stage there.
Oh, great! That sounds great. So it sounds like you were doing user-generated content before user-generated content was all the rage.
I was painfully early, yes.
No, that's an amazing story. So you mentioned that we are actually drowning in a sea of content, and human curation is important. Can you expand on that? Like, why is it that you think humans are key to the equation here?
So if you look at the data that comes out of YouTube over the last 4 years, the one thing that's clear is the number of devices that make video is growing exponentially. The number of different uses for creation of video is growing dramatically. YouTube is doing an amazing job storing and serving them, but the word that gets kicked around a lot is quality, right? So if you're Madison Avenue, there are some metrics about what they consider quality. But if you're an end user at home, and I'll just give you an example, if you have a 15-year-old son, as I do, and he wants to fix his bicycle, as he did 3 weekends ago, and you're trying to find a video about how to fix a derailleur on a particular bicycle, yes, I can search YouTube and type how to fix a bicycle and get hundreds of responses, thousands of responses. But if I can find a site that has a highly curated collection of excellent bicycle repair tips for teenagers, as opposed to bike professionals or racing bikes, all of a sudden, trusting that curator makes my job of searching easier. So humans are the contextualization, if you will, of search.
I see. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I think Jeremy is a weekend bike repairman.
Yeah, from time to time.
Do you make
See,
do you make
very
videos?
unhandy. I only repair things in the virtual world.
I only repair things when they have to. Steve, can you tell us a little bit more about Curation Nation, your book?
Sure. 2 years. So when I went out to raise money for Magnify.net back before New York had a tech scene of any substance, I went up and down Sand Hill Road talking to VCs, and I went to all the shops that you know very well, big VC firms, and each one of them said to me, what is this slide curation you have in your deck? Get that out of there. It sounds elitist. It sounds like a museum. And you know, I for a couple of years took their advice and tried to come up with another word for the mix of man and machine collaboration around content. And then I finally realized that the word was the right word, and I went looking for a way to kind of validate that, and found nobody had written, there'd been blog posts here and there, but nobody had actually sat down and said, I'm going to turn this into an actionable thesis that could actually look like a book. And you know, for all of us who write Twitter feeds or blog posts, writing a 300-page book requires you to be both diligent and a student in a way that I don't think I really fully understood. And so I learned a lot writing the book. And here, I brought a copy. I would sign it for you guys, but you're far away. And in the book, basically what I did was go out and explore the universe of how content was being organized and give people really very specific examples of how curation existed in the past and how it will exist in the future. And it's been a great entry point for me into this community of makers, which I'm very proud to be associated with. And I think what Kimberly would tell you is that increasingly, it used to be that at Magnify customers would say, oh, we need a video platform, and by the way, yeah, throw in some of that curation stuff. And now we're hearing, actually, we really need a curation solution. So the book was a little early, but not painfully so, and it continues to be, well read and well reviewed. So that's pretty much it.
Very, very interesting story. So did that book help educate the VCs? Do you know if they are reading it right now?
That's a fair question. Oops, I need a password to get back into this computer, Jeff. I didn't keep it live. I've always had good relationships with VCs, and I continue to have good relationships with both our VCs and kind of the broader community. I think the book did help, actually. I think a lot of them have read it, and there is no VC today that isn't getting pitched some kind of curation technology. So video and curation are hand in hand, kind of hot.
I haven't finished the book yet. I started reading it, and right from the start, you actually talk about the business models for curation, and you refer to a potential revenue trickle for curators. And let me just quote from the book. You say that when these micro careers are knit together, your curated knowledge can evolve from a hobby to an avocation of one of the many gigs that pay the rent.
Yeah.
So you seem to be kind of setting the expectations fairly low for curators, and obviously there are many ways in which people feel realized and people are motivated to perform certain activities online, and obviously revenue is one of them, but there are others. But if you look at kind of the business models behind curation, can you share some more thoughts about how you think that is going to evolve? Because ultimately, for VCs and entrepreneurs, that's going to be important. It's like how will the ecosystem evolve in your mind around curation? For creation, I think the rules of the game are fairly well established, but I think curation is still very new.
So one of the things I've learned, and that we've learned together, is the ecosystem around how a market changes requires a bunch of players, right? So Google, from an advertising perspective, can say, we want to sell ads around curated content. We think that's a really valuable opportunity. But advertisers need to buy into that. Madison Avenue and then individual advertisers need to raise their hand and say, great, I'd like to participate in that ecosystem. And I think there's been some false starts there. And early on, I think we believed that if you made a collection of high quality video that clearly had an advertising opportunity, that the money would start to kind of tick away and come in. And I think we're now beginning to see that happen. And the game changer which maybe we didn't know. But the game changer really is the flat screen. It's really, YouTube to the living room, because what we know is that someone will be willing to search on an individual video. I mean, when I wanted that video of my son's bike repair, I was able to type in and search for it. But once I want to see a collection of videos about, sports or music or the arts or anything in which a number of clips have to be strung together, I really don't want to have to search from my living room couch every 2 minutes. I want somebody to have curated, the 10 best Gangnam style videos. God forbid, did I just say that?
You did. Now I'm going to be stuck on that for days.
I must, can we rewind the tape and take that back? I'm so sorry.
Too late.
By the way, someone is now curating that as we speak.
Yeah.
So Magnify's vision is that in between the collection of the world, kind of the content space, and then individual publishers and creators, there's the opportunity to add value both aesthetically and contextually, and that there will be revenue that will arrive. I personally think it's going to be a larger revenue stream sooner, but I made the decision in the book to not promise that, because, again, what's the thing about rear view mirrors? Things are closer than farther away than they appear.
Yeah.
I mean, do I think that, I didn't want to make the mistake of having somebody come up to me at South by Southwest and say, dude, I quit my day job because of your book and I can't feed my family. So it's like, I think I actually say in the book, don't quit your day job yet.
But we've definitely seen things shift. I mean, a lot of our customers that were coming to us, say, 3 or 4 years ago, they wanted to upload all of their own content. And definitely we've seen things dramatically shift away from that. They're really buying into curation at this point, and it's because the environment has changed. So.
Yes.
So content creators themselves are warming up to the idea of
Absolutely.
their content being curated by others.
Well, and I think part of what has changed in the last 2 years, and again, that's how fast this space is changing. 2 years ago, if you went to CES, all anyone wanted to talk about was DRM. Walled garden, lock my content down, digital watermark, keep it out of the hands of all of the evil aggregators who are going to somehow steal my precious intellectual fluids or whatever. Now, increasingly, people call us and say, hey, how can we be added to your collection? Or we want our content to be part of your search.
Yeah, they want to see their content moving. And as long as it gets picked up and moves around the internet, that's what makes them happy. So it's a really big change.
And I think, creators needed to get over seeing curation as the enemy. And in fact, I gave a talk at South by 2 years, year and a half, maybe it was 2 years ago, in which that title was Creationism versus Curationism. And it was a pretty angry room. I mean, it was yelling, and the creators were like, you're stealing our... I mean, it was very intense. And a year later, that had all evaporated. So I think that as creators understand that curation actually helps them, and I don't mean to be kind of Pollyannish about this, it doesn't just make your stuff get seen by more people. There's an economic model evolving, and YouTube's part of that, and a lot of people are part of that I think really makes it likely that curation will be a paid profession, soon. By the time your kids are out of college, depending on how old your kids are.
So can we? You guys are kind of switching a little bit into the Magnify.net talk. So we definitely want to talk a little bit about that and see a demo. Can you guys? You kind of gave a little information on what it's about. Can you tell us a little bit more and a little bit more about how it got started?
Sure. Well, Kimberly, do you want to tell the product story, and I'll
Sure. I can talk a little bit about that, and you can prep some stuff.
Okay.
So the company actually started out as a totally free product, very similar to a YouTube concept, and anyone could come and make a site and set up a yourname.magnify.net video site and either upload your own video and or bring in content from other APIs out there, including the YouTube API. And then we eventually added a pro tier onto that where you can come and swipe a card and you can get some extra stuff, you can get pre-roll on your own videos. And then we actually got into kind of what we call our enterprise product, where we have larger companies coming to us and actually paying us a monthly fee to provide a lot of different services for them, both video upload of their own video content and curation. And that's something that we started, about 3 years ago?
And one of the things that is kind of fun about this and why we like the partnership with YouTube so much is, YouTube, in addition to creating an a great opportunity and awareness of the preponderance of video, also working with you guys, I mean, there are things you build, and then there are things that you give us tools to build. So as the volume of video gets greater, some people that are doing narrow, tiny little niche sites turn out to need fairly complex tools to organize, build playlists, build players, all this kind of, presentation layer stuff after the API. And so, I mean, the easiest way is to kind of show you a before and after, and we think it's a little awesome.
Right.
And then Kimberly can talk about.
Let's go for it.
All right, and then we can kind of talk about how the code works under the.
And this is actually this is a Magnify site. This is the TEDx Talks video site running on the Magnify servers.
So let's say you want to search by language. Where's language?
So TEDx has this whole taxonomy that they came to with us, and you can search by topic and by city, by language, all of these different ways that you can actually slice and dice their YouTube content. None of the videos that you're seeing here are actually hosted by Magnify.net. They actually upload and have all of their various talks all over the world, upload all of their content to YouTube. And then we use the YouTube API to actually bring that content into the Magnify site, into their content management system, and allow them to categorize it in all of these different ways so that it's easier to browse and gives kind of a different context to all of it.
So here's all of the TEDx talks in Japanese. And let's just look at this one. And so what you're seeing is the YouTube player embedded, playing on the page inside the TEDx trade dress. So for TEDx, this page is literally delivered pixel perfect. So the logo is perfect, the color is perfect, the tabs are perfect, but you're getting a YouTube experience with a more granular search and a more customized front end, if you will. Yeah. And this is fully automated. So as people from all across the TEDx community upload, it's automatically organized. The taxonomy is baked in, and that's in a few minutes we'll get to some of the how the technology works. We'll take you behind the scenes and show you some of the tech, and it's pretty awesome. Yeah. So, questions? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it sounds like it's this use case that you have showed here. It's kind of video publishing platform use case where the content exists on YouTube, but you want to organize it differently, and then potentially provide some value add with branding from your from the actual customer. So looking at this, the TED jumps out. There's obviously a YouTube logo in the embed, but it's very clear that this is a TED site.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And people at the end of the video have an option. They can go and explore more. What it is a little cul-de-sac, if you will, of YouTube content, or and the curatorial, overlay is a TED curatorial overlay. So.
I was going to say we provide. Oh, there's no related videos. We can provide related video content and things that are all curated by the TEDx editors in our content management system. So if you wanted to move on to other videos that they consider to be related, you can usually do that. I don't see one here on this page, but provides that feature as well.
So let's go to a sandbox site that Kimberly allows me to break multiple times a day, and then we'll show you kind of how the technology works. Yeah. So this is a site called Travel Online, which is just a made-up site.
It's a demo site.
So Kimberly, just walk us through what we're seeing on this page.
So this is actually the homepage of a Magnify site. Everything that you're seeing here is actually a drag-and-drop module. In the content management system, you can build playlists of your content, and you can drag and drop those different playlists in these grid modules onto the homepage of your site, and they can be really rapidly updated. We have a lot of customers who have sort of like a special featured video of the day, or maybe for holidays or something like that. So it's really easy for an editor to come in and change out the content really frequently. Here we're looking at, what are we looking at? We're looking at a category of videos.
Called luxury.
This is part of browsing the taxonomy. You can actually bring in these videos from all of the different APIs, including YouTube, that we support, and kind of tag them up and categorize them, and people can just browse them based on your sidebar navigation, which was also a drag and drop module that you can stick on your pages.
So let's actually get into the admin,
sure.
Which I don't know if we've ever shown publicly before. So this,
I don't think so.
So this is what I've now done is I've skipped the login part. It's like a cooking show. I logged in it before so that the cake would be fully baked when I took it out of the oven. But this should look to you like any relatively straightforward browse, WordPress style blog tool. And let's go to design, and we'll just look at the page. So what you just saw, that site, that the travel site, is literally built by a series of modules. And these modules are all adjustable. So you can relay out the page any way you want. You can add new elements, both graphically and content-wise. And for a lot of people that want to build robust video collections and then have them change on a daily or weekly basis, not having to go to a developer to make a change to say, oh, I want to, this week I want to do video travel from Ireland. To be able to do that as a, without having to change the underlying code is actually pretty powerful.
Yeah. We actually also have a type of playlist called a tag-based playlist that works really well with a lot of the discovery that we do through our third-party APIs. So you can actually go ahead and set up something that we call automated video discovery and run a search, basically save a search and set it up to run on a schedule. And it'll go out to, say, YouTube and bring in videos that match your search terms, send you an email letting you know that you've got new videos to come and take a look at and approve. And you can tag those videos up, and they'll automatically, the tag-based playlists will automatically update. So you could go ahead and put some playlist modules onto your homepage with a certain topic, a tag-based playlist, and that content could update every hour, every 24 hours, or once a week with new content just kind of automated.
So are these submissions typically moderated by the curator,
or, they definitely
or do you
are.
have it? Okay.
Yeah, they are. We actually we have sort of a whole editorial process it's actually configurable, and it can also depend on the search that you're running. You can set up a search that doesn't go through an editorial process. For instance, if you're bringing in your own videos from your own account at YouTube, you know that you just want to go ahead and bring them in and have them go live automatically. They can actually skip that editorial process. But usually if you're doing a search for videos that you don't know anything about, they actually do go into an editorial queue. And the editor assigned to that queue will actually get an email, and they can come and log into the admin and preview those videos and reject the ones that don't fit and approve and publish the ones that they want to have go live.
So here's a great example. Without knowing anything about travel to Ireland, I've just searched the keyword Irish travel, and I found that there's a site on YouTube called Travel to Ireland.
There you go.
So I might spend a few minutes looking at a couple of their videos, but my guess is what I found is a very high quality Irish travel video collection. Yeah. So let's say that I've done that, and I've now decided, you know what, this is great. This is exactly what I was looking for. I want to create so now I can create an AVD, automatic video discovery. And I can say, we won't do it here, but I could literally say user : and then the name of the YouTube channel. And anytime Travel to Ireland publishes a new video, my site's going to discover it, categorize it, put it in my Irish travel category. And so as you build this collection of AVDs, what happens is they get smarter and more robust. And we kind of think this is I don't want to say the antidote, because that's not what I mean, but it's the yin to the yang of the growth on YouTube, which is the faster YouTube grows and the more content that's being poured into it, if you can build smart human-assisted searches around that and build high-quality collections, then all of a sudden YouTube starts to be able to surface, wow, what an amazing collection of Irish travel videos. How awesome is that? And humans are core to this. I mean, we think algorithms are great. We think they get you 90% of the way there. But just looking at, here, let's look at it a different way. Let's look at this, just as thumbnails. I mean, if you look at these thumbnails, without having to drill in too far, it's pretty clear that this one's probably worth looking at. This one, these are all beautiful images. This one, not so much. I think maybe Clondikin travel I wouldn't look at. Yeah. So I'm not looking for talking heads, but I'm looking for beautiful travel videos. Here, let's look at this one. And what you find is the combination of thumbnails and trusted sources starts to really kind of make the process easier. Yeah. So.
Great. Sounds very good.
Yeah.
Especially given the amount of content that we are actually getting on YouTube. I think we're up to 72 hours uploaded every minute. So lots of Irish videos there, I'm sure.
Well, and again, the thing that's interesting and challenging is as the volume goes up, keyword searches, they're part of the solution, but we would argue that it's a combination of a keyword, a trusted source, a curator. And by the way, my Irish travel site and yours might be very different.
Yeah, we curate very differently.
But you might want like edgy stuff in the pub, on the streets of, and I want beautiful and very hard to teach an algorithm an aesthetic choice between Kimberly's view of travel and mine.
I mean, ultimately, you're providing your own context for these videos, and the context, the curation context, is what makes them more valuable. So
here, so let's just, since we have a minute, let's just do one more thing. So I've just gone, and I'm just going to go ahead. Kimberly knows this is not. Kimberly is a detail person. She cares about periods and commas and all that stuff. I tend to curate by scooping up big collections and then narrowing them down. So here, I've just added 70 videos to this collection, to the site. And now I'm going to go back up to content, and I'm going to build a playlist very quickly, and I'll just show you how it works. So this site already has 36 playlists on it, and I'm just going to build a curated series. And I'm going to search for Ireland. I should spell it right. There we go. What did I, well, should be more than 5. All right, so select all, add to playlist, and now I'll do Irish. So there's 993 results. So that's probably too many. Let's do quotes Irish travel. Well, you know what? I bet they're waiting to be approved, is what it is.
yeah, very possibly.
All right, so we'll go back to Irish. So the idea here is that somebody can, with a couple of clicks.
I think you've already got most of them over there.
All right. Oh, good enough. OK. So let's just save this as Irish travel. And then we'll go ahead and post it on the home page, and then we'll be done. So we're going to do design. So let's say that tomorrow's, St. Patrick's Day, and we really want to put up Irish travel. Well, we've just built a collection. This is not my computer, so it's a little confusing. There we go. Save. And then we'll go back to the public site. So, I didn't change the title.
While you're doing that, Kimberly, would you mind talking a little bit about the actual integration? It looks like from what you guys have shown so far, you're doing an integration both with the our data API to get information about videos and things like that, and the player API where you're actually playing it back and then skinning the look of it.
Yeah, we're actually not skinning the player itself, but we are using some of the JavaScript API to actually instrument the player. I can certainly talk about how we're using the data API. Obviously we support a whole bunch of different APIs, and I was saying a little bit earlier that there's always this challenge where we've kind of built our own language for searching all of these APIs, and everything kind of has to go through a translation layer. So our own language can be saved in our database and kind of have that search replayed back at any time. And then we actually translate those searches into, say, for instance, a request out to the YouTube data API to do a search, get search results, and then present them to our users. We then, if a user decides to use that video on their site, we actually store your GUID for the videos, the unique ID for the video, and then we actually use the player API to go ahead and build YouTube embeds on the site itself, and the JavaScript API as well to instrument that. We can actually do omniture tracking for video for YouTube players. And we also do continuous play for YouTube, which is a feature a lot of our customers want. So you can get kind of a lean back experience where you can load up a whole playlist of videos, and regardless of whether they're videos that have been uploaded to the site or YouTube videos, or there are a couple of other players that have JavaScript APIs as well, when a video ends, we can just roll through to the next video in the playlist, and it allows people to curate from a lot of different sources, but provide an experience that seems pretty seamless, regardless of where the video is coming from.
So one of the things I just did while Kimberly was explaining, everything on the site is drag and drop. So what I've done is I've started to update the player page. So you can do a large hero player at the top of the page. You can do related videos down. And these are all modules. So I added, and these modules can literally be laid out so that the page is full of content of different. And it turns out that a lot of our partners and our customers really have very different views of what they want the video experience to be like. Some want the video to be great. By the way, that's really strange. I'm sorry. This is what you get when you don't know what videos you're playing in advance. But the player page is very important. Some people, and we should talk about our embedded player as well, how we embed the YouTube player. But let's pause for a second. Kimberly was talking tech.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think somebody had a question there.
Yeah, my question was, as you were integrating with the APIs and actually building your product, is there anything that really surprised you? Things that were counterintuitive, you were not planning on, not necessarily, either about the API integration or the space itself or the product, kind of any aha moments that you would be willing to share?
Sure, specifically about YouTube. Actually, one of the things that we found really interesting, and we were talking about this over lunch, was the fact that you guys only surface a maximum of 950 items per search, which when you think about it makes a whole lot of good sense, but wasn't something that we were necessarily expecting when we originally did the integration. And actually, our integration was done back in, I think, 2008, or even prior to that. We had an older integration, so there was a little bit of surprise, but it makes a whole lot of good sense. I mean, obviously, pretty much any search that you do through the GData API, you're going to be getting a humongous number of search results, and the idea that somebody would really need to go any farther into a result set than that, it makes good sense. But
so how did you overcome this limitation? What did you end up changing? Anything in your system to kind of work with it?
Well, I mean, definitely we've got custom code that actually works with each one of the APIs that we support. So we did actually have to write a little bit of custom code. We can't necessarily lean on our base class for doing all of the integration with the YouTube API. It wasn't particularly onerous, but it was something that deviated from kind of a standard that we had set up for ourselves. So.
Great. Jeremy, anything else that you would like to know about the Magnify.net?
Oh no, that's. I mean,
there was one question, and I think Steve alluded to that, embedding. So it sounds like right now, if I want to use the product, I will have a microsite hosted on Magnify.net, or do you have like an iframe embed of sorts where I can just plug in my curated content directly?
You just said our favorite word.
Well, we actually do. You would have to have a Magnify.net microsite. It's kind of the base. It's where your content management system lives. But you wouldn't necessarily have to use that if you wanted to integrate the Magnify content from your content management system directly into your own site. We actually do have an API, and we do have a bunch of customers that are using our own API to actually build pretty full-featured implementations that are embedded in their own site. We also have our own players, and actually this is interesting because we had an iframe player long before YouTube ever adopted the idea of putting a player inside an iframe. And we did it for a number of reasons, not just so that you can actually switch between an HTML5 player and a Flash player, but because we are wrapping so many different players and so many different services. So it was actually kind of a great day when YouTube decided to implement the iframe, because our customers for a long time, they complained about the fact that we had an iframe embed. And we could finally point to somebody and say, hey, well, YouTube's gone to iframe, so this totally validates us. And actually, people don't get as upset about it as they used to. It's become a little bit more standard. But yeah,
that's nice.
Yeah.
So here's an example of our player. So this is a playlist of all YouTube videos we literally just spun up in 30 seconds while you guys were talking. You can literally use our standard skins, or you can build any skin in CSS.
Yeah. So because it's delivered in an iframe, we can give people the ability to really customize what we call the Chrome around the player. So the video player itself obviously could be coming from anywhere, and it doesn't necessarily come from an API. We can take embed codes, we can take OEmbed endpoints, all kinds of ways that third-party video could be discovered and brought into the content management system. And then it's kind of wrapped in this, it's just basic HTML and CSS that's pretty easily customizable.
So this and part of what we think is important is, when oftentimes when we show the product to people are like, oh my God, I have all this YouTube content, and I've been wanting to find different ways to expose it, but I thought that I was going to have to write a new player or write a new wrapper. And the fact that this is all drag and drop in CSS, generally speaking, makes folks really happy. And I just I've just made this 750. Let's make it 900 wide and 500.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different ways that you can adjust the size of the player. It can be vertically oriented instead of horizontal. We also offer something that we call a single view player, which doesn't have a playlist loaded up into it. So this is another way that content can move around sort of off of a Magnify channel. We also have some plugin implementation. So if you have a Magnify channel and you're running a WordPress or a movable type blog or a blog that actually supports the tiny MCE toolbar as your WYSIWYG editor for blog posts, you can actually plug a Magnify plugin right into that toolbar and go ahead and drop, you can actually surface video and add it to your channel right from the plugin. And then you can drop players into a blog post or onto your site that way really easily. And we have a number of people who are using that as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a couple of topics to cover. So let's switch gears. Thank you very much for the introduction and the fascinating introduction to Curation and the overview of your product.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.
Some really nice work.
So wait! I have a question for you. When does the new API come out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So for those of you watching, the question relates to the version 3 of the API, and we actually hosted our product manager Vladimir on the show a little earlier. We're trying to get the commitment from him as well, but we didn't get a firm commitment because these things tend to have a life of their own. I mean, we are certainly working with trusted testers right now, and I think there's a very strong desire to launch in Q4, but we don't have a firm date in mind just yet. But stay tuned. We'll definitely have more about API v3 coming up on this show as well.
Cool.
Great. So.
Actually, I was going to say, I'll be talking a little bit. I think you were going to talk a little bit about this, but this weekend I'll be talking at the Silicon Valley Code Camp here in California, and I'm actually going to talk a little bit about version 3 for any beginners out there that don't know much about YouTube or the benefits of integrating it into their apps and coding a little bit against it. I'm going to show some basic examples of version 3 and how easy it is to use. So if you're around Los Altos and want to see that, that's this Saturday at the Silicon Valley Code Camp.
Okay, great. So it sounds like if you know the trusted tester, in the meantime, you can come to the event, Silicon Valley Code Camp, and see you do some live coding with the V3 version of the API, ask some questions.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Questions.
Now, another event that we are planning, and this is a special announcement for you guys watching, since on this show we tend to share information before it goes out to our standard channels. For those of you who are watching us every week, we are actually planning to have a hackathon in Los Angeles later this month. We're looking at the last weekend of October. So if anybody would like to learn more about YouTube APIs, we'll be showing V3 version of the API, the new player API. We're also looking to actually have some Google TV folks with us. So if you're looking into coding a large screen application, you can do that as well. We'll shortly be sharing some more information about it. But if you're in Southern California or you're planning to be around, please book the last weekend of October and come join us. Let's do some coding at the Google offices in Venice, California, end of this month.
Great. Yeah.
All right. So let's see. I think there's a couple of questions in the moderator.
So the first one is related to hiring. Actually, the question is YouTube and Google developer relations hiring?
Yes, we are hiring. More information is at developers.google.com/jobs, so you can see all the positions that we actually are recruiting for actively right now. and not only for YouTube, but also for Google Developer Relations in general. So there's a lot of product teams that are hiring. So if you're interested in joining, please check out developers.google.com/jobs.
Great. And we have one more. The question is, how many viewers are in the class? And I think they're referencing the class I was talking about, the code camp. Right now, I think there's going to be about 30 people that have already registered just for my particular class. I mean, there's tons of classes in this weekend getaway. Some up to 60. So it may increase, but it won't be like an overly large class. So if you need want to come by and talk to me afterwards, I'll be there to help out.
Cool. Special one-on-one assistance from Jeremy.
Yes.
All right. So I think we have exhausted the questions for today. If anything else comes up, then please let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, same time, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Pacific. Special thanks to our guests, Steve and Kimberly. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Behind the camera, we actually have Jeffrey Posnick from New York City. For those of you that were hoping he was going to be on the show today, actually he was the live streaming producer.
And by the way, he didn't cough at all. No coughing.
Yes, no coughing. That's very encouraging.
Yes.
Jeff, I think we are looking forward to your full recovery in time for the cold season. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye, guys.
Bye.